what would you say the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience?
People start seeing some money flow in and they just start spending.
I want my labor to be at this percentage. I want my materials to be at this percentage. I want my commissions to,
Uncles, dad, cousins, granddad, you name it, they all roof. That's what they did. That was the family business.
Yep, that's the person that can run this even if I'm not here every day. You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Do me a favor, follow, comment, share, leave us a review, all of those types of things. Follow us on our social media, Roofing Success on Twitter, on Facebook, and if you want to take the conversation beyond what we're beyond just listening to here, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success, and join the Roofing Success Facebook group. Today, we're speaking with Chris Baldus from Ridgeline Roofing and Restoration. Alabama represented in the house. Tennessee. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Jim. How about yourself?
Good. So I like to start, just by telling your story. How'd you get into roofing? How'd Ridgeline get started?
So I've been in the industry now for about 12 years, roughly early 2010. We were just coming out of a tough economy, as you probably remember, from the recession. And I'd had a really good gig up until the recession hit and they started laying people off and businesses were going bankrupt and whatnot. And I was more in the landscaping field at that point. And I had an opportunity to get a job at Lowe's. And I was working in retail as a manager, hired in as a manager, and wasn't necessarily my calling. I'll put it that way. But I was fortunate enough to some guys that came up to me and said, hey, we're a new business and we're looking for sales reps and we're looking for someone that can sell us material. Would you be interested in selling us the material? I said, sure. After a week or two, we won their business. I started selling all their material to them, and they started recruiting me. And needless to say, I wasn't necessarily making a fortune doing what I was doing. And I said, what I have to lose? So I started selling on my off days. Found out that I was pretty good at it, and I was fortunate enough to get a couple of quick sales, and that went well. And a few months rolled by, and they said, "Hey, we got to go back up north." And the person that was going to run this division for us did not work out. Would you be interested? And I'm like, "Yeah, why not? I think I can do it." And long story short, got into the business full time. I was a salesman and the manager of the branch. My business partner now, Scott, he's a third generation roofer. He was actually roofing houses at the time. He was my best friend since kindergarten. And I called him and said, hey, I think you need to come try this with me. And he did. And he came on and ended up being the operations manager. And we ran the business there for about 10 years. And in 2010, we decided it was time for something a little different. We had a great time where we were and had a lot of success, but felt like for our long-term future of what we needed, it was time to break off. The gentleman we worked for, ran a company for us, closer and closer to very close to retirement at that time. And it was just in our best interest to make an adjustment. And we decided to do that. So we opened the doors at Ridgeline in 2010. And here we are. We just, things happened. We knew we would have success. We had a lot of contacts. We knew we were known in the industry. We've been doing it a long time. I did not think it would grow as quickly as it did. I'm thankful for it and looking forward to seeing where we can go with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, you guys have a unique relationship. I mean, you guys have been friends since elementary school, right? So he was in roofing, right? He was a roofer. right? Like, and then you get recruited by this roofing company. And was he working with it by himself? Did he have a crew? Was he working with his family? How did Scott get, how'd you convince him to come over and to this company you got recruited to?
So he was working on a crew for his cousin. Every one of
Okay.
his family members is roofers. Uncles, dad, cousins, granddad, you name it, they all roofed. That's what they did. That was the family business. They were more in a rural area, so it's more country fields, but that's what, I mean, I remember when I was growing up, my dad owned the machine shop, and I worked in the machine shop in the summers, and I'm talking about when I'm 13 years old. Well, Scott was carrying shingles up ladders.
Yeah.
And he's been around it since, basically since he could walk. He's been around it, and he's been physically on roofs since, goodness. I think he told me the first roof he ever got on with his dad was, I think he was 10 at the time. Just up there to say it just, things are different in the world today, but back then, and he worked in the summers until school got back, and that's what he was doing until the time I called him, and he's like, you know what, I don't think I want to be a hard laborer forever.
Mm.
Let's try this. And plus, how it was with some crews, and you didn't always stay busy. So there was weeks if it rained or whatnot, he was sitting at home not making money, and he just like I was at the time because of the recession and everything. I needed to make a good living too. I had to find something that I could have success at, and it just happened to. It just happened to fall on the roofing. Who comes out of school that says, "Man, I really want to be a roofer or own a roofing company when I grow up"? Nobody, right? But
They should though, right? They should, Chris.
I wouldn't change it for the world now.
Right? Isn't it amazing? Like it's amazing the opportunity that's created in this industry. It's just people would rather go and get a degree and do something else, right? But so you guys worked together in the previous company, so you guys kind of learned how to work together, I would assume, before you opened up Ridgeline. And what were some of the lessons that you learned along that way, or what are some of the lessons that you've learned in having a partnership?
So, great question. Number one, I don't believe that it's true that you can't work with friends or family. Scott being a prime example of that. We have been best friends since kindergarten, so 33, 34 years now. We don't argue. We obviously have done really well with being able to run business and create our own business and have a lot of success. One thing I personally believe that our personality types are different, and I really think that helps. I'm a firm believer that everybody can't have the same type of personality in a business relationship. If you're going to run a business together, you can't have two type A's there ready to go fist fight in the front yard because they disagree with each other. That's just not good business and being practical. It also helps too that Scott, for example, is very laid back and relaxed. I'm the opposite. I'm more a little, get wound up a little too easy probably. And it's perfect because he does things that I'm not good at and vice versa. And we know that. Scott respects the boundaries that, hey, Chris is going to handle this. This is what he's good at. And I know he's going to do what's best for the company and for himself and for myself. Well, I'm the same way. I'm not going to sit there and try to argue with Scott that I know how to roof a roof better than he does. That's just simply not right. He's better than I'll ever be at it. I'll never catch him in his knowledge on it. And no matter how hard I try, I firmly don't think I'll ever get there. And I think it's just a mutual respect of knowing what your goals are and what you're going into. And you got to keep the personal out of it. It's all business. Me and Scott still have a great friendship. We'll always have that friendship, and we're never going to let the business intervene with it. And look, and if it ever got to that point, that's when I know it's time to walk away. I just don't think that point will ever come.
Yeah. But you said something about complementing skill sets, right? Like that. And we talked about this before. Like, man, I think that's what makes the best partnerships are complementing skill sets. And that's what seems to be what you guys have. He's the man with the roofing, right? Like oh, okay, yep, we need to do this, that, the other thing. Yep, we need to do this, that, and the other thing. Like you could trust that that's where you guys want to go, and it sounds like he trusts you more on the business side and sales and marketing and things like that. Is that that balance there? Um, I had Dustin Beagler on the podcast from Apple Roofing. I don't know if you've ever run across Dustin in the industry, but one of the things that I liked him, we had a conversation about, or part of our conversation was that himself and his business partner, they have roles in their company, and they are also business owners, right? So they have a job to do on a day-to-day basis, but they're also owners of the company. So they separate that, right? Like they separate their day-to-day duties for the company from their business ownership, where I think a lot of times as business owners, we don't, right? It's like, no, this is like we wear so many hats, especially in the beginning, right, that we don't just say we are in this role. What are your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree. And I think the gentleman you're speaking of has kind of got it nailed to the head. Like Scott and I both have very specific roles. Yes, we're owners of the company. Yes, we run the managers' meetings. Yes, we handle the finances, stuff of that nature. But we both have very specific roles. I still handle, I still monitor the sales. I still do all the scheduling. I handle all the vendor and manufacturer relationships. Scott handles checking on the crews, making sure the project managers are doing their job. Scott's the one that goes and checks the metal to make sure the metal is measured properly. Checks on the commercial jobs. Even though we have project managers, that's his role. That's his that's what he's good at. He's going to make sure that it gets done to the satisfaction it needs to be. And if companies can learn how to put that into their system, I think their success goes up in a tremendous way.
For sure, man. And that's, there's a lot of things in business, right? There's a lot of things in business. One of the things that you had told me about, there's a TV show, just to kind of bring it back a little bit. There's a TV show with the guy named Marcus Lemonis. It was called The Prophet. I saw he spoke at Dmitry Lipinski's roofing process conference not too long ago, and but he has a saying: people process product, right? So like you need the three things, right? And but people always come first. When you guys kind of created Ridgeline, what you were telling me, like you guys attracted people. How did that happen? How did that come about?
Yeah, so the way it happened for me is pretty simple. I had a guy in mind for a while that I thought would make a great asset to a team, completely out of the industry. He is not from a roofing background. By the way, he's great now. He understands everything there is about roofing. He's great at managing the team. He was my first hire. I went straight after him. He's the sales manager / he's really truly a general manager. I just happen to be in the same office he is. So he's like a sales manager / general manager, right? That was the first key, was hiring the right guy to lead the charge, I guess is the easiest way to say it. And we found that guy. And when he came, it probably was a matter of literally 6 to 8 weeks. All of a sudden someone call and say, oh, I know that guy and I know this guy. And just friends started recommending them to us, just general people that's not in the industry. And it just started with a couple of them. We got 1 or 2 guys in. Well, they all of a sudden, they had some success over a few months, and they brought in a brother. I got 3 guys here that are all brothers. It started with one brother. He was actually my second hire. Then 6 months later, he brought in his other brother that left his job to come work here. And now we just added the 3rd brother about 5 months ago. Literally the whole family almost works here.
That's awesome.
And it just, it's all about finding the right people. We've been very fortunate the way we have brought it to ourselves of just getting the right couple of people. And look, they always say being around the right people and trying to monitor people's success is contagious. Like, you get around the people that, want it as bad as you'll grow. And well, if you find the couple that want it really bad, well, guess who they're probably hanging around? They're probably hanging around people that are very similar in that aspect. And they want to have success too. And they see their friends over here having success and they start asking questions. The reality is, I have several guys here that left really nice, good careers that they had for years and just came over to start working for us and kind of took that leap of faith that, hey, I'm seeing so-and-so and he's having he's obviously doing well. He's enjoying life. He's happy. That stuff, people notice that stuff. And we've just been fortunate. We ran into the right couple of guys early on. We picked the right leader to help lead them, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So when you say that, picking the right people, but to create the opportunity for others, you have to create an environment that they can thrive in. So I don't know if you guys did it consciously or unconsciously, right? But if you did it consciously, what were some of the things that you did when you started Ridgeline that you're like, hey, okay, I know I have this right person. Now, how are we creating an opportunity to support these people's growth, right? How have you done that?
Obviously we wanted to make sure the right people were in the right places. That way, if we had the manager, we had the right sales manager, we had the right project manager, we had the right office manager, or the guys that did come on would have the right guidance and leaders there to point them in the right direction, answer questions, etc. Some of it is just putting a system into place too for your company that you feel is going to want people to stay. Well, we make sure our employees are well taken care of, and they know that. I'm perfectly content. Anybody can ask one of my employees, hey, how do you like it there? And every one of them is going to say they love it. And we give them everything they need to have for success, but we also show them that we care about them, that we do appreciate them. We unfortunately won't be able to do it as much probably over time because of other things that we got in place. But we took several of our employees on trips this year, numerous trips. There was a turkey hunt at one point. There was a fishing trip at one point. There's a duck hunting trip coming up. We got a lot of guys that like to fish and hunt, as you can tell in our you kind of you just take care of them. Tell them that you appreciate them, and that goes a long way. Not everybody has to be patted on the back all the time, but just to know that you're doing something and that people notice that you're doing something makes a difference. And unfortunately, there's not enough of that in our society in general, more than just careers, but it does make a difference, and it's worked for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the things that I heard from that was that you put these foundational people in the right place. You have your sales manager, you have your office manager, your production manager, you have the support system. What key positions, if you were, hey, we got to start all over again, we have no one, we have nothing, what positions would you put in place, first, second, third, or what would you start with? What's the core team that, hey, if I was starting over again, I need the right people in these positions that will accelerate our growth?
So for me, my first hire was my sales manager, and that's what I would do. My sales / general manager, that'd be my first hire again if I could do it all. Matter of fact, when I went to Nashville, first hire, general manager, sales manager. I can't be there every day. I got to find that guy that can be there every day, that I know has got the company's best interest. That's number one. That's where you got to start, in my opinion. From there, I feel like me personally, once you get that guy, now it's time to round up a couple of good sales guys that want to go out there and have a sales career and go out there and try to do well for themselves, right? Well, after my kind of philosophy is on it, after you get a couple of guys, 3 or 4 guys up, that's about when it's time to bring in a project manager and an office manager, in my opinion. Just like I told my Tennessee guys, hey, you want a project manager that can watch your job so you can sell more? Well, get me to where I can roof one a day, where I actually have I need to have a project manager there that I have. He's got to have something to do, right? You can't roof one a week and have a project manager. That's not how it works. The office manager is key too. After you have a few guys, if you're not doing your books right and you don't have someone answering phone calls and dealing with the public and keeping your salesmen in order to make sure that they're doing what they're turning in checks when they're supposed to. I'll be the first one to tell you, I'd probably cry for about a week straight if my office manager came in and said, I'm leaving tomorrow. She is, I can't explain to you how important she is to our team. But those are the 3 positions that you start out with, in my opinion. You start with a sales manager, get a few guys rolling, then it's time to bring in an office manager. It's time to bring in a project manager. And then you can, depending on how much you grow from there, is when you get to bring in another manager. We just hired another one 2 weeks ago. A good friend of mine's been in the industry for years. He worked with me in the past at the other company. He's actually worked for a couple others. But we were getting, we could tell that, there was a gap in some things that we were not being able to pay full focus attention to, that was going to cost us money as a company if we didn't address it. So I went and got another manager. To be honest with you, we're manager heavy. I probably have more managers than are absolutely necessary. But I feel like that's a big part of our success, is having people in place where things aren't slipping, where our sales team does know that they have the leadership in place to where they're not being neglected. And I think a lot of people misjudge that scenario, and they feel like they can run around and chase 10 or 15 reps around by themselves, or even if it's 5 or 6, it gets complicated. And that's not how it goes here. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. I was talking to another contractor not long ago about that same thing. Like when it was what they're looking for help with. And it was like managing these, like just taking care of these reps, just, hurting my reps essentially is what they're doing all the time. Like knowing what's going on, what they're doing, there's full-time jobs in themselves. Being manager heavy, I like to think of that as A players, right? You have your A players, right? Like, and those are those people that a lot of times they take the pressure off of you as the owner, because they can handle it. They can handle the things that are coming at them, where you get a little bit more time to work on the business when you have those right A players in place. You guys are not the cheapest, you told me one time. You're like, we're not the cheapest, right? So how have you defined your brand as being that the quality option?
I just figured out that over time, that to run a successful, good business, your overhead and everything else comes into play, right? So when I'm looking at this, for me to provide the perfect service, whether it's to make sure everybody has their places, where I can have all these ducks in a row, well, it's not free. It comes with a price to me, but I'm able to give the quality that I need and the perfect service I need to that customer, where they're getting what they pay for. I'm a firm believer you get what you pay for. And that doesn't go for just roofing. That goes for a lot of things. And we're not necessarily going to be the most expensive. We're just not the guy that's going out there and roofing to throw, just enough to throw some bread on the table at night. It doesn't have insurance and, as a sole proprietor, I can't compete with them guys. And look, that's not, that's okay. There's a piece of the pie out there for everybody, right? I'm going to find the customers that I suit well with, that are looking for someone like Ridgeline, that they just want someone that can come in, walk them through the process. They want a great quality job, and they want to be they want it to go as smooth as possible. They don't want to come in there and have to have a bunch of bumps in the road. They just want someone that they can trust that's going to come in here and do what they're supposed to do, to say they're going to, they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and know at the end of the day that everything went well, and know that in the event there happens to be a problem, which you hope there never is a problem, that, you know what, I think these guys might be around a little bit and I'm going to be okay. I tell everybody, we're not perfect. We try to make sure we minimize any mistakes, but I dang sure want to make sure that all of my customers know that if there ever is a problem, that we're not going anywhere. We're here. And this company, and that's one reason when you get into building the team that you build, that's exactly one of the many reasons why I built that team. Is this company is bigger than just me. It's bigger than just Scott. Even if I can't be here or Scott can't be here, well, guess what? You still have Justin. You still have Nathan. You still have Anna. You still have all these other people in place that they're going to make sure it gets taken care of, even if I'm not here to do that. That's a big deal to me.
Yeah, definitely. And then when you guys open you have two or three locations now. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, so we're here in a little north of Birmingham. I consider it the Birmingham market. We got a location in Nashville, Tennessee, and we service Huntsville, Alabama too. We don't have an actual walk-in office. We're in the works of that at the moment, but I can still consider Huntsville part of our market because we do a lot of work out there. I've just never had an actual present office there, but that is in the works as well.
You mentioned, like, with the Tennessee office, you found that sales manager, general manager role, right? Like, and that's one of the things that I think a lot of contractors struggle with when they do make that leap to opening additional locations. Man, if you're not there every day, right? So what did you look for in that person that may have been different from the person that you looked for, or the right traits for the person that yep, that's the person that can run this even if I'm not here every day?
So the first and foremost, most important to me is finding someone that I feel like I can fully trust, that their loyalty is there. I can't be there every day. I can't be watching over his shoulder every step he makes, right? That's just it's not possible. And that's a big deal to me. When I ran the other company previously for 10 years, he trusted me to run it. He had to trust me to run it. He lived 500 miles away or something like that. He wasn't there. But I was loyal up until the day that we decided to go a different route. I made sure that I did everything with integrity. And first and foremost, you got to find someone that you can trust, because if you're sitting there second guessing yourself or worried that he's doing something that you're second guessing, it's not going to work, right? That's out the door immediately. So number one, trust and integrity goes a long way. Number two is finding someone that you feel it's no different than finding a sales rep. Who are you going to find that is self-motivated, that love people, love what they do, see themselves not just fitting in, but want to go above and beyond that? That's kind of what I explain to my sales reps. Like, do you just want to be that guy that just sits there and fits in, or do you want to sit there and max your capabilities out and be the best you can be? Well, the guys I want to hire are the guys that want to be the best that they can be, that are self-motivated human beings. And I was lucky enough to find that guy. And the way I found that guy was very simple. He came and worked for me in our Birmingham office. And I was like, hey, do you want to relocate? He was a single guy. It was a perfect world. He had a camper and liked to camp by the lake and stuff. Was, young. He had traveled from his previous job for years all across the country. And I was like, would you be open to it? He's like, sure, I'll be open to it right now. I think the opportunity would be worth it. And here we are. He packed up and he went, and he went, and it was literally nothing to where we're, starting to get to roof some houses. And it's not an easy market. Like you're starting from nothing. You don't know anybody. And he's built some great friendships, some great relationships in the industry, and got some sales. And now he's got two great sales guys that work under him that are, they're starting to get their foundation built and doing a great job. So And that's exactly what I look for, and when it's time to scale, that's what you got to do. But you also got to have patience. If you're not willing to be patient with the process, it's not going to work. If you think everything's going to happen on the snap of a finger, you're wrong, and you're setting yourself up for failure. And we knew that going in. I went in with a 5-year plan, like, hey, I'm going to give this 5 years. Unless something terrible happens, I'm giving this 5 years, and I don't. Now a year in, I'm not even worried about that anymore. I know we're going to be fine. It's just how successful can we be is my next. That's my new question is, okay, I don't have to worry about not having success. Now it's just, where can we go with it?
Yeah. And that, having that long-term thinking, like it's tough to do, especially in the beginning, right? You got to, there's money going out, everything's going out, and you just don't know, right? You just don't know. But I always like to say, if you have faith in the outcome, you'll execute, right? So if you guys did it in Birmingham, right? Like, we did it here. So if we do this there, we'll make it. There'll be some, there'll probably be some struggles. That's business, right? But if you have faith that you could do it, boy, that's when it happens, and you don't worry about if you need to do it in a month or 3 months or 6 months. You can just be like, we're going to do this, right? That's that long-term thinking. In that long term, even within building your business, you'd mentioned a lot of people don't come from especially your sales reps aren't coming from the roofing industry. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That means you have to train.
Yep.
Right. And in business, I think there's a point in business where your business turns from a roofing company or, whatever, contracting business, like whatever it is, to a hiring and training organization, right? Like, that's kind of where I think it moves to. How do you guys go about your training?
So the easiest way for us, and that's a great question. To be perfectly honest with you, we're actually in the middle of Justin, the manager I was talking about earlier, is actually in the middle of making a training guideline as we speak. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to be ready over the next week or so. We got a bunch of new guys that are actually just coming in that we're wanting to utilize it in. But in saying that, what we've done in the past has obviously worked, or we wouldn't be where we are, right? But it's, again, recruiting the guys that are self-motivated, that's coming in and basically already got their mindset, I can do this, I want to do this. And the reality of what we do is the best way to train is put them out in the field. Let them, and I don't just throw them to the wolves, right? My philosophy always was, hey, let's do some little bit of classroom training. I need to teach you about the CRM. I need to teach you about, some things that you need to know to have some success, the morals of the company, of what we expect and demand of you. And then we basically say, hey, I want you to go out, and you're going to go out with this guy, and you're going to spend a week or two with him. We generally have a rule of thumb. They spend a minimum 2 weeks before they're able to go out on their own. I want you to go ride around with this guy. And generally, they spend most of their time with one guy, but we like to break it up. Okay, you got to be around with this guy, and I know you like riding with him. You've been buddies for a week now. Well, today you're going with the other guy. I want you to learn their perspective, because every sales guy, I'm sure in most organizations, none of them are exactly alike. They all have different ways that they like to present their stuff, and that is especially the case for us. I can sit there and think of my top 5 guys right now, and not a single one of them does it the same way. Every one of them is different, and that's not a bad thing, And then it's just a matter of letting that guy figure out, or gal figure out which one is best for them. What style is going to fit me best? What works best for my personality? And when you can figure that out, it's when you can go out and then you put that together with the motivation factor of, hey, I'm self-motivated. I want to get out there and work. I'm not going to sleep in. You're not going to have to call and wake me up. You're not going to have to tell me what time I have to work every day. I know that I'm going to get out there and go do it. When you put all that together, create some sales monsters, and that's what I look for.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It, now with those sales monsters, you said, when you guys are, you're not trying to compete with the low cost guy that, the chuck in a truck kind of contractor. You're priced to your value to cover your expenses, to make sure you have the right people in place to be able to pay for them. How do you find those customers?
So that's also a good question. So we do a lot of insurance work too. Insurance was always our bread and butter before retail. Our retail game has grown a lot, but so two perspectives. On the insurance side, it's very simple. We don't just automatically give in to what the scope of loss is from an insurance company. There's a supplement I supplement 99.9% of the jobs that come through. And I'm not trying to be pushy or a jerk or anything. It's basic items, drip edge, valley metal, pop jacks, cornice strips, just easy, simple things, right? Ridge cap. I mean, it blows my mind how many companies let that just walk out the door. I've met a few guys over the years, and they'll be like, "Man, I'm just thankful the insurance paid for it. I'll just do it for whatever they say." You want to make Chris cringe. That's how I cringe. I can't tolerate it, because I'm like, why? The system's built off of fair market value. There's literally a line item that identifies every single element of that roof. I'm not asking for a penny more or a penny less. I just want it to be accurate. So from an insurance standpoint of quality, we're going to make sure that they pay for what is necessary on that roof, whether it's manufacturer spec, building code, or what was on that existing roof before we demo it, right? So that's how you fix the insurance side of it. Unfortunately, just more and more people let it walk. Now, supplementing is bigger now than it's ever been, but there's still a huge area for growth in that part of it. From a retail standpoint, to get them customers, I would say the best way is obviously social media, SEO, your Googles of the world, getting your name out there and letting people see you. And don't get me wrong, we've won numerous retail jobs from canvassing. There's nothing wrong with that either. If someone's interested and they obviously have issues or an old roof, and your guy's good enough to sit there and explain to them what's going on, that's made it easy. Finance obviously has been a huge factor in the retail industry too, where people aren't just sitting there begging for the cheapest bid possible, which, as we've discussed, usually the cheapest bid, more times than not, ends up being problems, right? And we all know that, especially the guys that's been in the industry. You know what you're getting into. Well, now people actually have an option to where they're not just like, man, I don't have no money, I barely got anything, this is all I can give, I'm going to get the dirt cheapest thing out there. Well, now you got finance that comes into play, and it's helped tremendously over the years with the growth of the finance and the different companies that are out there. So there's a lot of different elements to it. I mean, I think in my philosophy is to have a good balance. You need to be doing it all. Anything you can. That doesn't mean go bankrupt your company and do things that you can't afford. But that does mean that, hey, you should try to brand your company the best way possible and get your name out there. And when you do, your phone calls will come, especially if you have the right people in place, and the calls will come, and you'll win a job, and guess what? They refer you to a friend or a neighbor, and it just extends.
It usually doesn't happen fast enough, though, Chris.
This is true.
No, well, why isn't it happening faster? Why isn't it happening faster? Well, you got to think about it. People don't know you, and then they become aware of you, and then they get more aware of you, and then they know you more, and then they trust you, and then they know, and then it gets to a point where they know that you're the company they want to call, right? But it's man, there's a process to it. Do you guys do a lot of stuff in the community?
We do. In my personal opinion, not enough.
Yeah.
And that's something I would like to, again, as we bring these more people into play where we have more time out, where I'm not sitting here staring every single job down, where I can go and go to some of the local meetings here in the city. I'd like to do more. We do some stuff locally. We give to some of the local, we're right here in the school district, so we give to the school teams and do some, there's usually some charities around the holiday time where some families in need stuff. We try to do stuff like that. We try to do the local parades, things of that nature. We try to get into and make sure that we do the best we can with that. And then, obviously we try to look outside of that too. And anybody's doing an event where you can pop a tent up and have a guy there. We like to do that stuff too. Just really anything that we can do to kind of be a part of whatever's going on. We like to be there.
Yeah, that's such a big part of it. Like it's hard to even quantify what that tent at that local little event is. Like it's
absolutely.
But you go, man, it over time, again, it just builds upon itself and builds upon itself. I mean, you may get lucky and someone walks up and they're like, "Hey, I need you now." But a lot of times it's not like that, right? But it's just being out there. You said the local community, like the parades and things like that. Just being a part of it, being known in your area that, oh yeah, those guys there. And then they see your trucks around town. They see this, they see and then when it's time, oh, that's who I'm going to call, right? It's simple, but there's a lot to it, right? Like it's simple, but there's a lot. You have to do it, I guess, is the other part of it. That's where I think a lot of people miss out is like, oh, I'm too busy. Can't go out to that event or this event or do all that type of stuff. So
it takes time, and like you said, you do that, it comes. You just got to have some patience. Again, if you think it's going to be, like you said, someone running and jumping up and down, I need you now. Come over to the house and look at my roof. That's just not how it works. But if you're out there and you put the time and effort in, it comes, and
it does.
You just got to be patient and wait for it and keep working hard up until that point and past that point.
And past that point. Yeah. And past that point. Yeah. We were talking a while ago, and you were talking about like really, and this is where your finances have to really be dialed in to as you're growing. And so speak to your, like how you guys have, I mean, you said that finances are a strength of yours, right? And so speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So, and this goes for every industry out there. I think the construction industry's probably the worst there is at making sure their finances are in order. And what I mean by that as a company is you need to know where every dollar of your company is going. The problem exists out there that people start seeing some money flow in and they just start spending it, right? I can't tell you how many roofing companies, and I'm sure it's in all other industries too, but I mean, I can sit here and I could name off 20 roofing companies right now that I know went bankrupt, that went out of business. Well, why did they go out of business? Probably because they spent all their money, right? It's just the truth. And I knew going in that I'm never going to let my company be in that shape where I owe people money and do these different things, right? So when Scott and I created this company, we started with nothing. We didn't take out any loans. We didn't do any of that. But we knew the processes of the jobs, of how the industry worked, how the insurance jobs worked, how the retail worked. And so we just started one by one and to build it up. Well, that's a good way to do it in the rule of thumb. But the problem is again, the people go out and they want to spend all their money as soon as they get it. You can't do that. You got to learn how to look at your finances and know what you have and what you don't have. And if you don't know how, either learn or go hire someone that does. It's pretty simple, right? I was unfortunately lived, the recession in 2007, 8, 9 really hurt me. I mean, I was making a good job. I was, a single guy at the time, just bought my first house, and seemed like the whole world was crashing down. Couldn't keep the power on, working my tail off. It was terrible. And it wasn't because I wasn't trying. I was working 2 jobs, doing everything I could. And I just told myself, I'm never going to put myself in this spot again. And I didn't even and honestly, I didn't do anything wrong. I was doing things the right way. But that kind of taught me from a financial perspective that I'm not going to ever put myself in a position like this again. And so that's been a strength of mine. I actually enjoy it. It's kind of like a hobby to me. I enjoy learning about it and, better ways to use your resources. So when Scott and I got into this, we simply said, we're not going to go into debt. We're not going to spend all this money where we can't pay our bills. Prime example, whether we roof 1 roof or we roof 20 roofs in a week, our vendor bill gets paid every single week. Every single Friday, I'm going to get a text message from my local Beacon manager, and he's going to say, "Hey, is it okay to run the card?" "Yep, go ahead." And he already knows the answer. We kind of even joke around. He's like, "Man, I've never had to owe my customers money, but I actually owe you money from time to time, because sometimes I'll even pay past what I owe them, just because." I mean, the reality is, it's going to be there the next day anyway. So sometimes people just don't do that. But if you don't know where your money is, and another problem is for all the guys that just get out there and start creating their company because they think they can make money, they start having some resources come in, don't know where their money's going, and they just start spending it thinking that they got it. That's not the case. That's not how it works. My best advice to anybody that's ever starting a company is learn how to read a P&L. You need to be able to learn how to read a balance sheet. And again, if you can't, you better find someone that can, or you're going to put yourself in a situation. And some of it's just general rule of knowing what you got and knowing what you can handle. Don't overwork or overextend yourself. If you can't roof 10 roofs in a week because you think it's going to hamper your finances, well, only roof 5. It's okay to be backed out 3 or 4 weeks on a schedule. You don't have to roof all 9 roofs you got in the same week. That's not, you don't have to do that. I mean, yeah, over time, if you're good at it and you watch your finances and you build up and you have things set aside, you can do that. And that's one thing too, is like, I have a number in my mind that, okay, this is our working capital. This is what's got to be in our bank account at all times to run our jobs. And we stay at that number or above that number, and we don't let it get down. And that dictates some of the other stuff that we get to do throughout the year. But it's not a perfect science by no means. But I think if people would at least just be more financially aware of what they have, would put them in a better spot long term, and have their success of not going bankrupt.
Do you look at that working capital as a percentage of your revenue goal, or how did you come to that number?
So the easiest way I found out what my number was is, since we kind of started with nothing. We built our bank account from zero, right? In the working capital. So it took a while. Well, after the first winter that we went through in 2020, we had 5 or 6 reps. I was scared a few times because we paid everything's paid up, right? We pay everything up front. We don't owe anybody nothing. That was our philosophy. Well, there's a couple of times early on where I'm like, man, I'm a little scared. I'm a little nervous here. I don't want to have to go out and get a bank loan to pay for this. We're going to make sure we monitor it. So that's kind of what taught me, like, okay, I know now that you might have this amount of money in your bank at one time, but it only takes one week to knock that out quick in a hurry. So I finally, just over time, I was able to watch how many jobs I was building and learn, like, okay, I know that I'm going to be extended out at all times 3 to 4 weeks. I was working on the schedule now. I'm 4 weeks out. And I'm sitting there working on that, and I know what it costs to run these jobs, from a labor standpoint, from a material standpoint. And I just slowly over time was able to figure out those numbers. And look, that number will probably change. It'll probably eventually go up, or I at least hope it is, because if it is, that means I'm doing something right. So I think that number will change, and you kind of have to adjust. My number last year is different from my number this year. And I think it'll be the same next year. And you just got to figure out what's best. And time will tell on that. Like, you'll figure it out after if you watch it and monitor it, you'll get it dialed in.
So the gist of it is you're keeping a certain number of weeks of what you've estimated for job cost and labor for 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever your measurement of time is. You're saying, okay, I'm estimating I'm going to do 10 jobs to make math easy, right? I'm going to do 10 jobs over the next 4 weeks. So I'm going to keep that money as my buffer.
Yeah.
Okay.
You basically just taking, hey, I got this amount of jobs, and I know my payroll is going to be roughly around this amount each pay period. I need to make sure I keep this amount of money in, and I kind of look at it that way. Like, it's no different than your rainy day emergency fund for people in personal finance. It's the same way with the business finance. You got to have working capital. And by the way, now I think it's important to have a rainy day fund for your business too, just in case. I don't think I'll ever need it, but it's there if I do, right? And I think that's the hardest part of business. And the first thing I learned when I started this, and luckily I had a high interest in it, and I've talked to numerous colleagues in the industry and friends that's had a lot of success growing business. I'm like, I see why people go bankrupt now. Mm-hmm. I understand why doors shut. It's because they overextend themselves, don't keep up with their finances. They're not watching it. They're taking out loans, or they're spending the money before they pay their bills, and bad things happen. I see so easily now why people fail at business, and 98% of it probably, in my opinion, goes to their finances. And the best advice I could ever give to anybody is learn from their mistakes, because it's right. And that's the reality of it. I can easily see it. We'll never put ourselves in that situation. I know enough about it now that if whatever reason the economy squeezes and gets tight, or whatever it may be, I know what I've got to do as far as what I have to do with my schedules or whatever it may be. I know how to make that work, and we will.
Yeah, and that was great advice too, is that if you have 10 jobs, you don't have to build them this week, right? Like, you can, if that will put a financial strain, on your business, or you have to, man, you can schedule those out. You can, you can do different things. You also said, learning how to read a P&L, right? And that's a very impactful thing. What are the key metrics that you're looking at on a P&L, or on a for the company, or I don't know if you go down to a profit and loss on a job, right? If you job cut every single one, but like, what are the key metrics that you're looking for in that regard, or percentages? Like, I know, I want my labor to be at this percentage. I want my materials to be at this percentage. I want my commissions to, where are we shooting for in some of those numbers? And if you're getting off of those numbers, that's a telltale sign. Boy, we got to fix something here.
So the main thing that I look at per job, and my managers know, like, we have a set gross margin that we feel like we have to be at, and we know what that number is, and it's very simple. If it's below that number, you better have a really good explanation of why, because you're just I'll turn the job away, or there better be a very good indication of why we need to do this. And look, that's helped our business. We stay right where our margins are supposed to be, which puts us in line with several other companies, but also not the cheap guys, right? And that's what we need to do to build a flow financially and to run our jobs and run our team and run the managers all the way down to the reps. And we just try to stick to that number. And then if you do that, when you start checking your P&L periodically, whether you do it monthly, quarterly, yearly, your yearly numbers, I can go look at my P&L and be like, yeah, that's right there within the range I expected it to be. And that's what it's supposed to be. And when you can identify that, that's when you can start identifying what you can put money into outside of just running operations of a company, just outside of your labor and material. Then you can be like, you know what? I think I can afford that other manager that I really need that might can help fill some gaps. Or maybe I can spend this extra couple of percent on marketing that I desperately need because I'm not branding my company properly. Look, or maybe it's just, you know what, my managers have been really working their tail off, and I feel like they deserve a bonus. There's a lot of different things that come into play there, and it all starts with just simply knowing what you got and not overextending yourself. And then good things can come from it. You can decide what to do with that money once you get there. And it's very simple what we do. We put it into the company. We try to figure out ways to help the company grow, whether all of them, including managers or including bonuses, including marketing, or maybe it's, hey, you know what? I think we've made enough money or built enough money in this percentage where I think we might have the opportunity to scale if we want to at this point. That will help us get started at the next spot. So there's a lot of options there. And you don't have to do any of them, but at least you have that option, right? That's the way I see it. At least it gives me a chance. And what you do with that chance might dictate the future of your company.
Definitely. That will tell you the health and wellness of your company and help you make those long-term decisions, or the hiring decisions. They help. Knowing your finances is a key component of running a successful company, roofing company or not. And I know you made that point. So what do you think what would you say the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience that's helped Ridgeline find success?
We kind of already discussed it, but easily it's the people within your organization. Find the right people. You don't have to go hire every single person that you ever run into just thinking, oh man, I'm going to grow a team. That's not the way to look at it. Find people that you know that they're the kind of people that you would want to run your business if you couldn't run it. That's the easiest way to look at it. Find that guy. Once you do, it usually generates down all the way to your sales guy. You can turn down a resume, or you can not hire a person. I've seen in our industry, there's so many companies out there that they don't, hey, you want a sales job? Yep. Okay. When can you start? That's not the right way to do it. And it happens all the time. And that's just not it's long-term. That's not a good solution. Maybe short-term for a few weeks or a few months. And maybe you get lucky and 1 out of 10 that you do that with will have some success. Right. But, I've learned very quickly that that's not the right way to do it. You go out and find the right people and then let it run its course. And so my best advice is simply find the right people and don't just accept whatever falls in front of you. Don't be scared to go after a guy that's outside the industry. Don't be scared to go after a guy that's already got a good job. Just because he's got a good job doesn't necessarily mean that he loves his job, right? Find a guy that you think could feel some. Who knows? You might change someone's life by offering them that job that you never thought would even think about accepting it. As I said, we got numerous guys here that had a really good living. They had great careers and chose a different one and are happy as can be because of it. Mm-hmm. Don't just settle for whatever's out in the front yard, right? You just got to go find what works.
That's awesome, man. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.